It was a sunny afternoon when I found myself standing at the doorstep of an upscale cafe, my heart pounding in my chest. The moment I stepped inside, I saw her, my wife's lover's wife. It was as if fate had thrown us together in a twisted game. She stood there, unaware of the storm brewing inside me. My entire world had been flipped upside down when I discovered that the woman I trusted the most had been betraying me for months. But what happened next? Well, that's something I'll never forget. You see, I had a plan for payback. I didn't come here for forgiveness. I didn't come for reconciliation. I came for justice. Before we dive deeper, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. You won't want to miss what happens next because, trust me, it's about to get wild. Let me take you back a few months. Life was perfect. At least, that's what I thought. I had a beautiful home, a lovely wife, and everything seemed right in my world. But then, everything changed. One evening, while I was sifting through my wife's things, I stumbled upon a series of text messages on her phone. At first, I thought they were nothing, maybe some harmless chats with a friend. But the deeper I looked, the more I realized something wasn't adding up. One message caught my eye. She had been meeting with a man. Not just any man, but a man I had trusted. He was one of my closest friends. I confronted her, and her response shattered me. She didn't even try to deny it. She confessed right there that she had been having an affair with him for months. The man I trusted had been sharing my bed, my life, my wife. But the story didn't end there. In that moment, I felt like my heart had been ripped from my chest. I had to make a choice, either let it go or do something about it. And as much as it hurt, I chose the latter. The plan began to take shape in my mind. I needed to get closer to the situation. But how? That's when I found out about her, his wife. She was just as unaware of the affair as I had been, and something about that struck me deep. I decided to attend a gathering she was hosting. She was inviting close friends, family, and unknowingly the wife of her husband's lover. I knew it would be the perfect opportunity. What better way to get my revenge than by sitting at the same table, sharing the same space with a woman who had no idea about the man she married? The day of the event, I could barely hold back my anger. I kept telling myself that this wasn't about hurting anyone else, it was about justice. I had to do this, not just for myself, but for the truth. I wanted her to know, to understand, and to see the chaos that her husband had brought into my life. When I arrived at the venue, my eyes scanned the room. We exchanged pleasantries, small talk, nothing more. I couldn't help but notice how calm she seemed, unaware of the storm swirling just beneath the surface. As the evening wore on, tension was building up. Each word she said, each laugh she shared felt like a punch to my gut. She was living a lie, and I was living it with her. I was trapped in a moment where I had to decide how far I was willing to go. Finally, I couldn't take it anymore. I knew I had to make my move. The perfect moment arrived when the guests were gathered in the living room, enjoying drinks and snacks. I could see her husband, the man who had destroyed my life, sitting at the bar, laughing with friends, unaware of the chaos I was about to unleash. I stood up, excused myself from the conversation, and walked over to her. I could see the confusion in her eyes as I approached. She had no idea who I was, and yet I felt like we were connected by this twisted fate. Without saying a word, I pulled out my phone and showed her the pictures, the ones of her husband and my wife tangled in the sheets, looking like they had no care in the world. I watched as her face turned pale, her mouth going dry as the realization hit her. She knew who I was now, and she knew what had been happening behind her back. Her reaction wasn't what I expected. She didn't scream or cry. She simply stared at the pictures, numb. And then, after what felt like an eternity, she said something I will never forget. I had no idea. It was like a slap in the face. I didn't know whether to feel sorry for her or to be even angrier. But I realized something in that moment. I wasn't here for sympathy. I wasn't here to be the victim. I was here for justice, and she had just become a pawn in the game. The rest of the evening was a blur. I didn't stay much longer. There was nothing more to say, nothing left to do. But as I walked out of that house, I couldn't help but feel a strange sense of peace. I had done what I needed to do. The truth had been revealed, and the consequences were now out of my hands. The aftermath of that night took unexpected turns. The next day, her husband, my so-called friend, confronted me. He was furious, of course. But the most surprising part? He wasn't even apologetic. He seemed more concerned about his own reputation than the fact that his actions had destroyed two families. And then came the unexpected twist. His wife, the woman I had met that night, reached out to me. She wanted to talk. She was devastated, of course, but there was something in her eyes. Something more than just sorrow. She wasn't asking for forgiveness, but she was offering something else, a chance to be heard, to understand the chaos her husband had caused, and to heal. We spoke at length, and through that conversation, I realized something important. No one in this situation was truly innocent. We were all victims in our own way. But that didn't change the fact that betrayal had happened, and it had to be addressed. The tension reached its peak when her husband tried to salvage his reputation, approaching me with empty promises of reconciliation. But I knew better. He wasn't sorry. He was just trying to save face. And that's when it hit me. The only true justice would be for him to face the consequences of his actions. In the end, justice was served. He lost everything: his wife, his reputation, and his friend. I, on the other hand, found peace. I walked away from that nightmare, knowing that the truth had come to light and that I had played my part. This story wasn't just about payback. It was about uncovering the truth, about standing up for what's right, no matter how painful it may be. If you've ever been betrayed, you know how devastating it can be. But in the end, the truth always finds a way to come out. And when it does, justice is the only thing that matters. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to hit the subscribe button. I've got more stories like this coming your way. Don't miss out on the truth.